Product marketing is a new function in many companies. Hello, Bianca. Oh, you got a friend over there.
Wanted everybody to see Archer. He was up all night. So I will try to still be as high energy as possible. But if you have a puppy, you know how it goes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. Co-speaker in the house. Awesome. Yeah. So Bianca is going to talk about how to set up a product marketing organization. So
Yes.
let's hear all about it. You feel free to share your slides if you have any, and I'm gonna get off the stage and make room for you. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for giving me the time today to talk to you about my experience. I am currently doing this in real life, setting up a product marketing organization from scratch. So I wanted to share with you some of the tips and the tricks that I am seeing as I go through this. And today, what I thought I'd do is just share a little bit about myself. Um, when I first came into this role, I sort of did the good, better, best. So I'll let you know what my options look like under each of those, a 90-day plan, which I think is really critical, any role that you're in, but specifically with product marketing, you really have to have a strong strategy and a plan, 30, 60, 90 days. Give you some top tips I've learned over the years, and then give you some space to ask some questions. So let's get into it. I always share my story just because when I meet a lot of other product marketers, I'm always like really surprised that, you got into it right away. And my career path has not been that way. It's been very nonlinear. So I have taught kindergarten and third grade. Um, I ended up leaving that job just because, I was teaching and I was also working three other jobs at the same time during the week and on the weekends, and I still couldn't afford health insurance. So I went back into corporate America, and a few years later, I ended up unknowingly building the business case for customers to talk to their banks on Twitter and Facebook and respond to Yelp reviews, etc. I had a tremendous amount of fun just because I didn't know anything. Social media was still very much like the wild, wild west at that time. So the banks didn't know anything either. Brands didn't know it. And then in 2012, I was recruited by Chase, and I was really excited to know that my idea was not a one-hit wonder. And today I see, everyone on my Twitter timeline just, tweeting questions to brands. And I think I had a small part in helping stand that up. So I'm really proud of that. 2014, I was really, really burnt out. So I threw everything to the wind. I sold everything that I had, packed up my car with two suitcases, and I drove to San Francisco in 4 days and decided to really think about what it was that I love to do. And, if you look at my career, it's a theme of storytelling, right? Taking the user experience and putting it into words. So I decided to just start over. I've had, pretty big titles, and I started over as a manager in strategic marketing. Learned my way across different strategic marketing, corp comms, brand marketing roles, and now I am in my sweet spot, which is VP of product marketing. So let's get right into the good, better, best option. So when I joined iTrade, I was brought in to really stand up product marketing and bring storytelling into the DNA of the company. They had not really had a solid marketing organization prior to me. And this happens to a lot of the smaller companies, right? They tend to end up outsourcing, or they bring in maybe some contractors. So I think, when a company starts to get really serious about marketing and get really, really serious about product marketing, they're on the right trajectory, right? So when I look at my options right now in terms of building out a solid product marketing function, I'm starting off with good, which is we don't have a sales enablement platform. And I was so thrilled to hear Claire mention that in her speech, because we actually just built out features and requirements and our use cases for a sales enablement platform. And HighSpot was one of the ones that we talked to. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer it. But for right now, I'm in the good stage, right? So I have a single site where I've centralized the product marketing content. And so that could be customer deck, so presentations based by the products, product release information, the release notes, a deck containing an overview of what's new, and other internal enablement content, right? Like sales alerts, like if your competitor does something, they revamp their website, or they're making a strategic shift in their storytelling, putting together a one pager for the sales team so that they can understand what's happening. I hope to, within Q1 and Q2 of next year, move into better, right? Having that single site, but then a cloud-based environment so I can really start adding more, like competitive intelligence, adding the demo scripts and the walkthrough of that stuff, and then start to integrate other customer marketing toolkits, because I work pretty closely with customer experience and customer success. So I like to have a centralized place for everybody, a single starting point for them to go to, right? And then by around Q3, ending of Q2, Q3, I'd hope that we'd get to the best stage, which is we have a robust sales and enablement platform that's more than just content repository, right? You want to see how the enablement is actually performing. You want to have those insights and those analytics, and you also want to have easy integrations to whatever tools your company is already using. And then this platform would also make it super easy for myself and the product management team to execute what I consider to be level 1 through level 4 enablement, right? Level 1 is sort of like, what's the big picture? What's the story? Like, what is happening in the industry that requires this product, right? And then level 2, you sort of get into the details, right? A little bit of the architecture, but really start, talking about pricing and packaging. How does it work with other modules, right? And then level 3 and level 4 is the more technical sides of the enablement. But could the platform house all of that for us, right? And then easily integrate like the other marketing and competitive intelligence tools that we're using. So I know Claire had mentioned it, but Crayon is really good. They do scrape a lot of data and find the things that you want based on the parameters. And honestly, it's where a lot of my sales alert comes from, right? I can see very easily if a competitor has done something that the sales team needs to be aware of. The 90-day plan. So any role that I go into, I always draft, the top people I need to talk to, what are the questions that I need to get from them, and then also understand like what deliverables am I going to create within 30, 60, 90 days. So this is a very streamlined view, but I consider the first 30 days to be about learning, right? The next 60 would be you start initiating how you contribute within the organization. And then by the 90th day, you should be leading some stuff, right? So I want to caveat all of this with, if you are a product marketer, relationships are your bread and butter. You will be working with everyone across the organization. I mentioned earlier, I work a lot with customer experience and customer success, and it's because we're standardizing a lot of the processes. Those are the ones who interact with the customers, and I want to talk to them and see what feedback they're getting and how do we make things easier for our customers, right? But your relationships really, it spans the entire organization. You have to have a really strong relationship with your product managers, because you have to understand the vision of where this product is going. That helps you shape the roadmaps. It helps you shape the stories, not just at the portfolio level, but the product level, right? So relationships are really key. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the times you will come into an organization that's just now standing up product marketing and they don't understand the value of product marketing. So those relationships will be really key, with the executives, your senior leaders, right? Really talking to them about the plan for product marketing and how product marketing contributes to the overall goals of the organization. So you'll see there, I've mapped it out by 30, 60, 90 days, and then some key priorities. I'm going to continue to reinforce the relationships are your number one thing that you have going on. But you'll see sort of a cadence, right? You start looking at building those relationships, and then you start, as you meet with everyone, you should have a meeting template of, and I use Evernote for this, but I have a template for when I first join a company, and I have, the same 6 to 7 questions that I'm asking everybody. And it's not laziness in asking the same 6 questions. It's sort of like you'll get to see, once you start going back and reading your notes, you'll start to see, like, and you synthesize it, you start to see some trends popping up, right? Maybe the organization doesn't understand marketing. Maybe roadmaps are not something that have been there, but the sales team is dying for it, and this is what customers are asking for, right? So you'll start to see key themes bubbling up, and you'll start to glean insights from them. I also spend time with the solutions consultants who are doing the demos, right, to really understand, because the customer is giving them real-time feedback there, and so to me, that's really critical to understand what does this customer experience journey look like across multiple touch points, not just product marketing, right? The next slide, I'll cover the VSEM, but that's your vision, your strategy, your execution, and your measurement. That is your winning slide. Throughout the course of my career, it has always come down to one slide. When I started pitching cloud to Chase Bank, because from social media, you have to plug into APIs, etc. The CEO and his executives were very, very iffy on bringing cloud into the bank, and it came down to one slide. So I would say for product marketing, I always recommend starting with your VSEM slide so that you can start socializing and locking down the idea that product marketing is a powerful contributor to the organization. And I'll also I'll show you an example of bill of materials, but really your vision and your strategy all come down to also how you execute, right? And so standard bill of materials, the standard kit that you're going to create for each product, right? I think that helps to really centralize the idea of product marketing in everyone's eyes. And then, you sort of by the 90th day, you have a good sense of the organization. You kind of grasp the culture and how information is relayed. And how to get information relayed successfully, because everyone has a different communication style, right? So you start to understand the norms of the organization, and then you really start, as you synthesize your different stakeholder meetings, you really understand, maybe I need to really standardize the process for how product roadmaps are communicated, right? Some companies have just one single version, and other companies have like a field level version, which is for the actual users of the product, and then an executive level of the roadmap, right? So creating those versions and creating the talk tracks that go with it, creating product launch checklists. A lot of companies have different cadences. Some companies are every month they release something. Other companies standardize it and they go to a quarterly or biannual basis, right? But how do you run that as a project? And then for me, one of the key things that we've done here is really standardize customer communications for product releases. It was sort of like a grab bag prior to me entering. So what I did is I worked with the CX and the customer success teams to really settle down on the types of customer communications that were going out, standardize the templates for it, right? Standardized subject lines. And it seems like, it's really tactical stuff, but sometimes you have to go to that nitty gritty and do that work, right? And so we've seen a complete success within 60 days of us doing standardizing this process, communicating it across the org, but also with our customers, because our email open rates went from like really flat to 200 to 300%, right? And they started clicking on the release notes and the what's new deck. So I share that to say, it depends on where you are in the organization, but sometimes product marketers just have to roll up their sleeves and do the nitty gritty stuff, right? So this slide that I was sharing, that I was telling you about, that's my winning slide. I have found that when I walk into a meeting and I'm new to an organization, it's really helpful for everyone, for me to articulate to them why product marketing is so important, right? So start with the vision, right? We're going to position this brand as the market leader with the most powerful, whatever the product portfolio strength is, right? In the industry. I've done this for IT service management. I've done this for nonprofits. I've done this for supply chain. And now iTrade Network is perishable supply chain. So I'm really tied into this mission, because you think about like food going from the farm onto a truck, and then being, the sort of the trading between a buyer and a seller, and then it gets to the shelf to the consumer, right? Picking it up and putting it in their basket. So for me, it's a really powerful mission, and I am really working to centralize the themes for our portfolio and showcase how we deliver on that mission, right? Could be different for you. And then product marketing, you are always going to hear that you have to drive demand and pipeline, right? For me, a lot of the roles that I've come into, I've had to either rebrand the messaging or develop new messaging, right? And I spend a lot of time understanding the market, creating messaging docs, and really understanding what is driving the need for that product. Why would a customer look at our website or hear from a peer that they're using this product, and why would it impact how they perform their work routines, right? Trying to get to the core of that and simplifying the message as possible for our sales team to be able to deliver it, right? And then, of course, accelerating go-to-market. A lot of times this is done through trials. So and this is just an example for you. So when you look at those the three parts of my vision, then I went into the execution, right? So simplifying the messaging, creating a standard set of product marketing materials, standardizing the release and the launch process, content that's like lead and nurturing, right? And then also creating thought leadership. And then you'll see some metrics there. But I can't emphasize how helpful this slide has been to me over the course of my career. Really articulating to people who don't understand what marketing is. And sometimes that's the toughest sell, right? I think it was Claire that said product marketing is talking as a service. And really, you can talk to the people who get this, who really understand content, who understand demand generation, who understands email marketing and all of that stuff. And those are your people, that's your tribe. But sometimes you have to go in and talk to different teams, right? It could be professional services. I would also mention the UX team. That is one difference that I've been doing over the past year, is really setting some strong relationships with the UX team. So I understand visually where the product is going and what's driving that vision. So I think I'll share, the deck will be shared so you'll have an example of this. Some other things that have been winners for me is really showcasing the product enablement components, right, that go into enabling everyone internally, right? So it starts with the vision for the product, right? That's the roadmap. What does this product do differently in the industry that other products don't do, or is there a mission that's driving the product portfolio, right? And the evolution of the modules that can be layered on top of it, right? So sitting down with the product managers and really articulating what that theme is. For a lot of companies right now, it's business transformation. They want to automate the mundane things, the routine things, the ones that's prone to human error, right? So picking up on those themes and then getting that vision across and through roadmaps, right? And then your job is to come in and sort of take that vision, that story, and bring it to life with positioning and messaging, creating story platforms, and then narratives under each of it, right? So for one product that I had years ago, they were touting it as an IT service management tool for onboarding. And it was right at the time where digital transformation was really gaining popularity. But as I was doing my research, I found out that it was actually reshaping the future of work, right? So we were able to rebrand the product from this IT tool to the future of work, and boom, pipeline, sales, conversations, everything went out of, up into the sky. So it was like, sometimes when you start doing your research, you find those key themes and then you find a way to make that story really meaningful, right? And then, there's the tactical stuff, the documentation stuff, the release notes, the launch materials, and then all of that coordination of like the internal and external portals where you have information. I have always found that as a product marketer, I do like to get with the solutions consultants and really like get into the product. This is helpful for the trials too, right? So you can understand by an industry what personas are using the product for and what are the business benefits they're looking for, right? A lot of companies right now, and supply chain is not immune to this, they're trying to clean up their tech stack, right? They want simpler, cleaner, more elegant tools, and they want companies that can scale with them because the market is changing so rapidly. So, you hone in on things like that when you listen to the demos. And then, of course, the enablement, right? You work cross-functionally to get demo videos stood up, scripts stood up, sales enablement to be conducted, and then you have a bunch of collateral that goes along with that. I think I'm about 10 minutes. Okay, so the other thing that I talk to my teams about as we sort of socialize product marketing is really processes that we'll be standardizing, right? So I'll take roadmaps again, very, very important. I think it's the foundation of how your storytelling gets stood up, right? You have to hear from your product managers and your senior leaders what is the product vision, and then create various views of that, because they could be talking to, the sales teams could be talking to a C-level as quickly as they could be talking to somebody who is working in procurement, right? They're planning, they're forecasting, demand planning, all of that stuff, right? So, sometimes that roadmap that's for the C-level might not matter as much to that user as, you know, here are the features and functionality that's really going to make your work life simpler, right? The roadmaps inform your messaging and your value props, and you'll see there I've got listed out the different things that you would be doing there. Product releases, I have, again, it really depends on whether or not it's a 30-day cadence, quarterly, biannual, or annual. But, you know, getting yourself into a standard process where you have a calendar mapping out by product when the releases are coming through, and knowing, you know, sometimes it's really simple releases and you just need to send an email outlining what the release notes are. And then sometimes it's a really big, you know, the product has been reimagined and there's lots more hot functionality that people have really been asking for. And so that requires a bigger launch. Some companies I've worked at really tiered the product launches like A, B, and C. And some can be really rigorous processes, but I think having for yourself a framework for you to understand that, starting with the calendar, really helps to make your life easier. And then, of course, the stories, the demos, the enablement, go lives are really important, you know. So I always like to put together for the sales team what's new kit. So, you know, a very, very simplified view of what the new features are, what the business values are. Sometimes that could be a one page or it could be a deck, you know, and having that in a centralized place. Again, that's where the sales enablement platform comes into play. But having that information and then letting them know, and the various stakeholders across the organization, how these customer communications are going to go forth. And then, you know, the product marketing bill of materials. So the BOM, you know, you really start with by product, what are the use cases, right? And then from those use cases, what are the business benefits? What are the business outcomes, key capabilities, right? And then you sort of break it out into internal and external. So from a customer facing perspective, you know, if you are looking at the product page, right? Do you have a standard content architecture for that product page where there's, you know, a call to action, there's solution sheets, there's an ebook, there's, you know, various assets on there, and the copy is really powerful and positions you in a really like use case based way, right? Also, you know, creating case studies. And I think we all know here in the B2B space, the buying process has really changed, and they are coming to your website and they're looking for all of that information because the last thing they want to do is call you or talk to a chatbot, right? And the trials are also, I found that, you know, it could be customized, right? The customer could come in with their data, customize the demo for themselves, but that takes a lot of budget to get that done. So what a lot of companies end up doing is sort of a curated walkthrough, and they refresh the data on a certain basis, right? Whether it's weekly or monthly, et cetera. So thinking about that, you know, that external story, but then internally, you know, you have to have messaging documents, you have to have enablement content, FAQs, right, from the enablement, battle cards, SWOT analyses, cheat sheets, and customer references, right? And then on the commercial side, you'd work across cross-functionally to really understand pricing and packaging. So what's the base layer? And then as they add on modules, what does that pricing structure look like? And then curated demos. And all of this really helps to drive pipeline, right? So you'd be putting a lot of this stuff into your thought leadership, product launches. ARPR is pretty important to me. Depends on your industry too, right? But analyst relations is really the primary word of mouth for a lot of B2B campaigns. So it's something to really factor in. And then, of course, the fun part, the content for campaigns, right? Demand gen, ABM. There is no place that I'm happier than when I'm sitting down writing content. So, you know, I love being able to create content for events and different digital campaigns, et cetera. I think we're at 5 minutes. So yeah, these are sort of my top pain points, top tips for product marketing that I've learned over the years. I think, you know, it's how you organize yourself when you enter an organization, that you really, you know, you can set yourself apart from others, especially when you're coming into an organization where they've not had a product marketing function or marketing has maybe been outsourced, right? So really organizing yourself through that VSEM structure and then socializing that. I spend a lot of time with my product managers talking about the vision and the story that goes under there. I spend time talking to other teams who interact with customers directly to understand what are the pain points, right? So I know that how I can really articulate that story. And then just managing expectations. Product marketing sometimes ends up, doing brand marketing and corporate marketing and performance marketing. So, really stand firm on what these work streams are and where you can contribute and be successful. And don't be afraid to say no, because that'll be your saving grace. And I think we've got a little bit of time for questions. Have you encountered immature product teams? Oh, yes.
Tell us all about it.
So, a product manager should always be able to tell you what the vision of the product is. And they should be able to, and their development team should be able to walk you through that roadmap of how features and functionalities are going to be deployed. You want to evaluate if they have domain expertise, right? I'm not saying that, someone who's right out of college can't be a great product manager, but they really have to have a strong vision for where that product is going. And, not to beat a dead horse here, but I think you have to have a product management team that understands diversity and the perspectives, of that diversity, right? Because you're not building for one single user, you're building for multiple users. Like within our industry, we're building for people who are literally on the farm picking products and then putting it on a shelf. That's very different from someone who's sitting in an office doing demand planning for a grocery store and whether or not, how many pumpkins they need to order, right? So you got to have people in place who really understand diversity and really understand that there's different users in the market and you're not just selling to one.
Got it. Tell me, what do you think? When is an organization ready to even have a separate product marketing function?
So I would say it depends on their product set, right? I believe you should not go out of the gate without marketing.
Well, yeah, but like product marketing versus like, I don't know, demand gen and content marketing, like getting customers in the door.
Yeah.
Versus,
So I would say iTrade brought me in because they are getting ready to really hit a trajectory, right? They're really innovating the portfolio. They're changing the direction of the portfolio. And so I was brought in to really articulate what that story is and bring them into the SaaS cognitive space, right? So I think, it depends on where that company is at in trajectory. I think it should just be embedded as a core function. Because corporate communications and brand marketing and sometimes even performance marketing, they don't get to the nitty-gritty the way that we do and the way that we get to the actual user of the product, their use cases and articulating the benefits of that, right? But I would say, for iTrade, they are in a trajectory of growth. And so they recognize without product marketing, they could not actually grow.
So like, what, can we be specific here? Like a 1 million ARR, a 10 million ARR? What stage?
I'd say probably around, I don't know. My head is screaming 10 million ARR. But product marketing does require a budget, right? You're going to have lots of tools that you need to bring in. And so a company that's really serious about product marketing is going to say, I'm bringing you in, but here's the budget, right?
That's
for
right.
You to actually execute and get it done. Without a budget, you can't get anything done.
I'm with you 100%. Bianca, thank you so much. Pleasure hearing from you. And we'll see you around on the internet.
Yes.